Right, welcome back. Now, what is a 3D printer? Well, I'm glad you asked, because this is a 3D printer. It is a FFF style printer, which stands for Fused Filament Fabrication. Now, we'll look into that a bit more as the video goes on, but this is just a general overview of what a 3D printer is, and what it does, and what you can do with it. You might be looking to buy your first one, you might be looking to buy one for a child, or for a college, or a workshop of your own, but this video will be basically the comprehensive fundamentals of what a 3D printer is, not what you can do with it and the scope of how far 3D printing goes, because it's been around for a while but it's only gone mainstream recently, so there's a lot to learn basically. But quite simply, a 3D printer melts a plastic filament, which is this thin thing here, which is I think 1.75 millimeters, and then it goes via an extruder to a hot end, which then obviously melts the plastic, and then it deposits it on the build plate. Now you've got your x-axis, which is here, and your y-axis, which is here, and then from bottom to top is your z-axis, and it's plus and minus depending on what machine you're using, but generally it's plus towards the build platform and minus away from the build platform. As you can see here, I've marked out the x-axis, which is from right to left, which is obviously the actual movement of the head as it goes, obviously from right to left. Now the y-axis is the axis which the actual build plate itself moves upon, so that will be back to front. So you can see as the 3D print is going, it will be going in tandem with each other depending on what you are printing. For instance, something circular, it will be moving to make a circle. Obviously that's fixed, so you can't do a circle with that. You have to move them both in tandem so it can get a circular shape. Objects such as this is a very right to left, back and forward motion, seeing as it's square, but in the middle it's got a thread, which, if you've seen my previous video, can you 3D print a thread? Little spoiler alert, yes you can. Now here's only a small selection of things you can 3D print. As I said before, this is a sort of test block to see if it can print an M8 by 1.25mm thread. And spoiler alert, as I said before, yes you can. Now these are a bit different. These are sun gears. Obviously they are both right-handed helix, that one and that one, because they go to the right hand side. No matter what way you turn it, it will go to the right hand side. And then for instance, you have a left hand pinion. Now they will mesh because the calculations have been done so they can mesh, but obviously as you can see, that's right hand, that's left hand, because it goes towards the left. No matter what way you turn it, it will go left, and a left and a right will mesh. Obviously not great because they are plastic, the tolerances are a bit more finicky, but you get the general gist. Now these are part of an upcoming project which you will be seeing. Obviously sun gear, planet gears, sun gear, pinion, whatever you want to call it, two left, two right. Some are hollow, which you can sort of see, and then some are solid, but you can print anything you can sort of put your mind to with a 3D printer. With plastic, this is a PLA, which is polylactic acid, I believe. You can print with ABS, there's nylon, there's carbon fibre reinforced, I think there's fiberglass nowadays, Teflon. The more exotic you get, the more high end of a 3D printer you need. This 3D printer itself is, I think, £300, £400, like English, from Amazon. I can leave the link in the description if you'd like me to. You can build it yourself, and I quite like that because I'm a very hands-on person. Obviously running a channel called Cars&Engineering, you really want to be a hands-on person, really. But like I said, I bought it because I liked it. I liked building things. I thought it would be a good insight on how they actually work mechanically. But like I said, I'll leave the link in the description and you can make it up for yourself. Now this as you can see, this is the hot end. This thing right here and right here. This is a little thermistor, I believe, and it heats up this aluminium block. The filament is fed through this nozzle here and then comes out with the little brass nozzle here. I think it's a 0.4mm hole, so it's fairly small. You're talking just under 0.5 millimeter. So if you look on a ruler and imagine how small millimeter is, then you will see how small 0.4 is, which is obviously less than half. But obviously the filament will come through, gets heated up, gets here, and it's deposited on the build platform layer by layer. And obviously when you can only extrude 0.4 of a millimeter, then obviously if you're doing 1mm layer height, it's obviously going to take a few strokes. You can get higher precision nozzles. I think they go down to like 0.15, which is extremely small, but obviously the smaller your nozzle is, the more passes you're going to have to do with the printer, and obviously the more time it's going to take to print something. These sun gears, for instance, I believe were printed at a 0.4 resolution. Obviously you can see the actual layers. If you look carefully, you can see the layers on it. So imagine every single time it's just building up, building up, building up, building up. Now, which is different, say, from a milling machine. I don't know if you have a milling background or something similar. Obviously you won't be able to mill this, and I know this is a drill bit, this is not an end mill. I didn't have an end mill, obviously, so I'm using a 8mm drill bit, I believe. Could be wrong. But anyway, as you imagine a machine or a mill, the bit would come in and remove material to make the actual given part. This might be a better representation. For instance, if you're milling this, and obviously if you're milling this and then face coming down here and milling this out, the opposite is true. Obviously you start with nothing and then it slowly builds each layer up. As you can see, there's a bit of a printing error on this one, or it's had a little bit of X or Y axis jog. I will do another video on how to get rid of that and how to tighten belts and make sure your print is running efficiently. But the general understanding is a 3D printer adds material, and say a milling machine or a lathe will remove material to make the part. So when you first start the machine, completely bare, there'll be nothing there, and then as the print goes on, more and more will appear, and then you have your part. I will throw a time lapse into this video so it sort of gives you a bit of an indication of what a 3D printer does. But just think of it as the opposite of a mill. It adds material, it doesn't remove material. I believe there are 3D printers now which do have a sort of Dremel attached to it, or some sort of 5-axis CNC which can sort of remove material, but that's not really the scope of this video. This is the control screen. This tells you everything you need to know about your printer. It tells you the actual temperature of the hot end, the temperature of the platform, your X coordinates, your Y coordinates, your Z axis coordinates, what it's printing at, and obviously tells you that it's ready to go. Now, this isn't really an in-depth video on how to print something, it's more basically what the print is all about, what it does, what it can do, what it can't do. So that's for another video. So what is a 3D printer? Well, a 3D printer is something that will let you build basically whatever you like. As long as you put the G code in, which I'll explain more later, and as long as you have a clear vision of what you want, there's files on the internet you can download. It's very simple. You basically add plastic, add power, get your part right, and you can print basically anything. Obviously, there's things to do with like overhangs and things that can't translate the print very well, so you have to make support for it. But in short, a 3D printer is a machine which allows the user to print basically whatever they like. I hope you learned something from this video. I know it's not very in-depth, but as the weeks go on, I'll go more in-depth on basically what you can do with 3D printing, what you can't do with 3D printing, how to take a part from SolidWorks or Fusion 360 and then translate it into a 3D print. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like it, please subscribe, it always helps. and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.